Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for tuning in to another video. In this one, it's going to get a little bit real. I want to talk to you guys about my sobriety. As of June 10th, 2020, I am 1 year sober, no drugs, no alcohol. But I'm not naive. I understand that this isn't the be-all, end-all. It's not the only solution or the end of the work that needs to be done. It's the beginning. I still have vices and addictions that I need to sober from, whether it's sex, food, complacency, procrastination, media, video games. There are a lot of things that are not perfect about my lifestyle. Although starting from here is a good place to be, ultimately I need to strive to rid my life and sober myself of all destructive activities. And I think being clear-headed, I'll finally be able to find success in that. So, a bit about my relationship with substances. When I was 14, I started smoking weed, and there were a lot of things I loved about it, and ultimately I'm still an advocate for it in certain applications. But for me, it was a huge issue. I would smoke every single day, before school, at lunchtime, after school, weekends, just all the time. When I was 15, I tried ecstasy for the first time. It was a really popular thing to do back then, and me and my friends had really easy access to it. We had a really cheap source, and with cheap drug sources comes a whole lot of uncertainty. It could be laced with a multitude of things, and at least in a couple instances, we definitely got stuff that was laced with crystal meth, heroin, cocaine, and who knows what else. When I was 16, I tried cocaine for the first time, and let's just say I'm really lucky that I didn't have enough money to support that habit. When I was 17, I experimented with some other things. I tried dexedrine and morphine, poppers and mushrooms, and of course on top of that there was always a steady stream of alcohol. After a while I was able to kick a lot of these things. The prescription drugs were definitely just a phase and they didn't stick around long. And after a couple ecstasy-fueled club nights, that was out of my system as well. Mushrooms for me were a semi-annual thing all throughout my 20s. And in moderation, I'm definitely an advocate for mushrooms as well. I think they can really help with mental development and just learning about yourself and diving into some issues that you normally wouldn't dive into. For me, cocaine probably was the one that took the longest to shake. When I was in the film scene a lot, it's just kind of everywhere and hard to avoid. And when I grew up and had a little bit more money, it was an issue. But eventually, I stopped doing that too. In terms of drinking, it was never really a huge issue for me. I was never really much of a big drinker. Besides social scenes and parties and just using it as a social lubricant, it was kind of easy for me to just slowly stop drinking. And by the time I decided to go sober, I only drank really once or twice a month anyways. So through all of this, slowly dropping substances from my lifestyle, there was one thing that just kept getting worse and worse the whole time. Since I was 14 years old, I had been smoking weed every single day, and throughout the years it just got stronger and more concentrated and easier to get because of medical marijuana stores. I was completely hooked and it was a huge problem. I would smoke it in the morning, before work, after work, before bed, before meals, after meals. I was constantly high. It got to the point where when I wasn't high, I felt very uncomfortable and it was rage-inducing. I would just hate being sober. My saving grace was a combination of things. First and foremost, it was my girlfriend at the time. She was just completely sick and over it. She could see that it was holding me back and it was causing a real strain on our relationship. And all of the anger that got directed towards her was understandably just way too much for her to handle, and it was not fair at all for her. The other thing was therapy. I had been in weekly therapy for nearly a year and I was making good progress. But it got to a point where I would just continuously keep hitting a wall and I could no longer progress, and all of the significant breakthroughs that I was having near the beginning just stopped. So I brought the issue of my weed smoking into my sessions and we started to explore why I used it and what it meant to me. I'm not going to go into all the details in this video, but to sum it up, I was searching for something to numb me and to avoid my emotions and dealing with my past. Weed put me in a haze and it enabled me to not look at my problems and not examine my past and really work through the hardships that I had as a child. After a few sessions, I decided to go sober. Other drugs weren't really an issue for me anymore, and alcohol wasn't at all a problem, so I just decided when I was going to quit weed, I'm just going to lump everything together and just go straight edge. I wanted a minimum commitment for myself of 1 year, no drugs, no alcohol. And as the months went by, I celebrated every single milestone, and I felt better and better as the time went on. But at the beginning, it was really hard. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I was getting withdrawals, I was shaky, I would get sick. It was just miserable. But after that first hump, it started to get easy. I think my body was just like, yes, finally, I can breathe again. I can stop working through all this extra shit, and I can just relax. The cravings went away, and I started my recovery. I'm still tempted when I smell it or when I hear people talking about it, but ultimately I'm really happy with the decision that I made. And now that a year has gone by, I'm not really sure how restrictive I'm going to be in the future. Things like alcohol and mushrooms and even weed in moderation might be a possibility. But for me right now, I don't think I'm in the headspace to really make that decision. I'm going to give it some more time and just think about it a lot more. I'm going to keep going down the path that I'm on and work on my other vices and the other things that are holding me back and restricting me from growing as a person. And I know it's going to be hard, but it's ultimately going to be worth it. So that's it, guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.